Howdy Breakers. So, I want to quickly talk about a fun little EX style called funnels. For those new to this franchise, funnels is the shorthand term for any kind of remote guided weapon, whether it be wire guided or Saikamu powered. Tiny flying guns or knives that you can send to the other fella that zoom around on their own and attack them. Remote weapons, drones. Funnels have a long history in Gundam games as being some really powerful hands-off options, something that you can send out and then forget about as they attack the enemy on their own. Breaker 4 funnels are less than what they have been. Honestly, the complaint people keep having about Breaker 3 funnels being so much more effective is not too far off. They have all entirely been moved to the EX section, when previously you could have some on option. But with the new way option works, maybe that's for the best. But I want to talk about the best ways you can utilize your funnels. Get them the best of the ability. Speaking of ability, there's generally two primary traits that will affect funnels, which will be attack power funnels and attack power long range EX, as they fall into long range. They're not a support type, they're not an auto fire type, those are entirely different skills. Funnel duration can also work. It's rare on weapons, and it's also uncommon on modules. But these will be the primary ways to get more damage out of your funnels on the stat side. All funnels that I've tested, which is almost all of them, are shot scaling. They will run off your gun level. Even melee funnels, like C funnels, or mini-moires, which are literally flying knives that run into people, they unfortunately scale on range. I mean, unfortunately for some builds, range builds ain't complaining. So let's talk about how funnels actually work. Funnels will have a different deployment cost depending on their gimmick and how effective they actually are. Most funnels are going to start at 1. If you were to place on builder's part funnels, then it would be 1 bar for every funnel you have linked. If you decide you want to put on 8 different Sheridan shield bits and link them together to fire at once, then it's going to cost you 8 bars to do so. Similar or same funnels across your build will launch at the same time. Currently I have one of these Jagadoga arms on. If I were to use a skill, it would launch out those 3 funnels. If I put both arms on and launch the skill, I would have 6 funnels going out. Speaking of which, let's check out their performance real quick. With a press the button, they go out, and they will seek out either the enemy you're locked onto, or if you're not locked on and in player mode, not lock mode, they'll lock on to the closest random enemy and start firing in sequence once they buffer up. As you can see, the rate of fire is not great. Now, the damage on these are a little bit unusual because I only have 1 arm equipped, so it actually increases the overall damage to compensate for the lack of numbers. But still, I have to deal with the unfortunate implication that I'm not going to get many shots off before it runs out. So the duration is not great. Now, there are some utility funnels. Things like Archie Legs, the GN Fang to actually stun on hit, or personal favorites, Providence Dragoons. These fellas shoot out a concentrated Tribe Beam that just seems to lock down people a hell of a lot better than the individual shots do. Almost all funnels, once deployed, can be returned by holding the button once more. There's very niche cases where you want to return them. Generally, the only one I can really think of is if you're using a mastery part and you need to cancel it to use something else in that spot. There are other types of funnels. Let me just equip one right now because I honestly should have had it on. I'm just absent-minded. It's late. In which case, I'm looking for the large fin funnels I've mastered. Off of New Gundam. New Gundam fin funnels, High New Gundam fin funnels, and Akatsuki Shiranui back dragoons all have extra unique functionality, wherein you launch them out as regular funnels, but if you tap the button again, they'll return you to form a beam pyramid or a beam barrier. This barrier acts as a defensive buff, as you can see up on the top left of the screen. It'll be toggling on and off. And in particular, this increases your resistance to beam and physical roughly by 30% each. Now, to note, there will still be one funnel zooming around, not being a pyramid. It's still going to keep on some offense. It's not the worst, honestly. You can toggle it back and forth easily by pressing the button, fence to full funnel, or you can hold it to return them to you. Now, there is one more useful trick that you can use to get the most out of your funnels, and that is utilizing shot mode. Shot mode is pressing both, on PlayStation at least, L1 and L2 together to enter a third-person shooter mode. Your movement's more limited, you can't side dash, it's not the best controlling. You won't lock onto an enemy till you get somewhat over them, when you'll have kind of a magnetic soft lock. And any shots in this mode, 1209, 1209, 1051, receive roughly a 13 to 15% boost in damage. Now, as you can see, anything that's not a shot attack is blocked off while in shot mode. I cannot use my grabs, can't use my plasma knife, I can't use my Vulcans, I can use my chest-mounted grenade launcher. I can also use my grapple, that's cool. But anything else, including my funnel seals, are off limits. You can actually circumvent this by having the funnels out first, and then entering shot mode. And as you see, if my Jagadoga funnels doing 3 and 2, entering shot mode now has them do 347. It will boost their damage. Now there's one more goofy thing you can do. While in shot mode, funnels will not actively attack the enemy. Deploy them back out again real quick. They will not go after them until you lock onto them. I can sit here for the next 25 seconds and won't do anything. What that means, though, is that even though they're not firing, their internal recharge time to fire is still buffering. So if I were to toggle over my enemy, they're all going to fire at once. That gives them a little more oomph if you want to play within shot mode to make up for the poor rate of fire funnels usually have by buffering them into one go. And that can be especially deadly with something like the Providence Dragoons. We're going to wait for them to buffer here. So, they're now did their initial attack from launching. So they're no longer going to attack the enemy because I'm not facing them, I'm not locking onto them. They're hovering around me, and by now all their attacks would have synced up. So now if I do hover back over my opponent, it's just a fuck field. And now all of those shots should be generally buffered together as well. So if I still had duration left on that Dragoon, casual reminder, they're also still buffed by the shot mode damage. Just gotta wait for them to do their initial attack. They fire together, and they should continue to fire roughly together, since they've all been synced up. Making it a hell of a lot more useful. If you have a good funnel duration, entering shot mode even briefly might be worth your while. We'll just check out the performance of New Gundam real quick as well. God knows they're not very quick. So the one that's got initial shut off should have them all just about buffered. Highlight back over an enemy. All fire at once. It's still not great, but it's a little bit more useful. And you can always toggle back over, wait for it to buffle, I say toggle, slide back over, wait for it to buffer, and slide back over for another barrage. Funnels are not perfect. God knows this game is really not doing a lot with them, but there are quite a few edge cases where they can be incredibly useful to have out. The aforementioned Archie and Providence included. Explore them, play with them, experiment. Please find more tricks than I did. In the meantime, if it's something you really want to use, I encourage you to do so. Every playstyle in this game is valid. Even hidden hats. Surprise, there's a Gundam! Whoop. Be excellent to each other. And I'll be back as soon as I think of something else to yap about.